Welcome, Negronis with Nord, episode number 28. You will notice that I'm not in a suit. It is true. Once again, I've got the hard cast now, which does not fit through a suit jacket, so I am having to rethink my entire wardrobe. I am getting surgery next week, so actually we probably won't do an episode next week. I'm getting a screw in my wrist in a week. Ultimately, I did get multiple opinions, and everyone said, don't be an idiot, go get surgery. So, look, we could have a whole episode on taking control of your health. Am I going to get my cast signed? No, I don't think so. As I say, you don't put a bumper sticker on a Ferrari. So no, I'm not going to be getting my cast signed. Apparently, it will heal faster and it'll get me into a suit a month earlier than if I just left the cast on and hoped for the best. But I worked out with the doctor that I can get a new cast once or twice a week, so I can continue to work out, but just go back once or twice a week and get new casts. So if I did get something signed, it would be very, very temporary. But no, nobody will be signing my cast. Take control of your health. Do not ignore it. My goal in being old is that I have told all of my friends that I'm going to outlive them. I actually just literally had this conversation with my CFO. Even with my less healthy lifestyle, that I was bound and determined to win the final competition with my group of friends, which is being at their funeral and outliving them. So let's move on to the holiday season. Let's talk about holidays real quick. It is going to be quick because, once again, my life is being ruined by HVAC and it is like 87 degrees in this office. Holiday season is incredibly important for brands. A lot of brands have over half of their sales happen in the last 2.5 months of the year. It is absolutely make or break. Brands are incredibly focused on holiday. It's something they've been planning already for months. As an influencer, it is worth starting now to think about your holiday schedule, think about what you want to do. And there's just a couple of things I want to lay out before you jump in. One, I think that you should kind of map out the rest of the year and think about the number of sponsored posts you want to do. Generally, during the holidays, you're going to be oversubscribed. There's going to be more opportunities than you are willing to, or able to support. It's good to pick a percentage or a number of sponsored posts that you want to do, or what your max is. I think the biggest mistake we can make in the holidays, when there's all these brand deals coming at us and when budgets are generally higher and when prices are higher, to say yes, to like get that bag, to do one more deal. The problem is often, especially in the holiday season, we forget our followers and we start to focus on optimizing for making the most money possible and not optimizing for delivering the best content possible for our audience. And if you go wild with sponsored posts, you know, you're doing 4 or 5 sponsored posts a week, it's a real place where you can lose trust with your audience. And given where attention and viewership are right now on TikTok and Instagram, you do not want to risk starting to lose that audience and like flipping that algorithm off of you a little bit and like having that viewership fall even further. Good to think now about what are your goals? How much money do you want to make? And how many sponsored posts do you want to do? Really look at where you were last year, where your following count was, what you were charging, what you want to do this year, how much money you want to make, and how many sponsored posts you need to get there. Understand that a lot of influencers do raise their prices during the holidays. I think that makes sense. There's increased demand. Increased demand means restricted or similar supply, means prices need to go up. I think everyone understands that, so your prices can be a little bit higher. But you want to focus on maybe more posts for less brands so that you don't overload your feed with sponsored posts. I think another thing to think about is like obviously look at the year. Go back every client that you worked with that you enjoyed working with, products that you love. That should be your first email when you see this video, right? Go back, and if you haven't heard from them in 2 months, hit them up. Hey, what are you doing for holiday? I'm starting to lay out my schedule. I loved working with you all back in March. I would love to do something for the holiday. Much better to retain a client, much easier to retain a client, much better for your audience to talk about a brand that you are already talked about and said that you love. So let's start by going with all the brands that you've worked with who you're not currently talking to or don't currently have a holiday deal booked with. Email all of them that you want to work with. Maybe some of them are toxic and you hate them, or the product sucked, or your audience didn't like it. Don't work with them. So the ones you enjoyed, the products that you like, email all of them. Try and set up calls, or just say, you know, what if they have holiday plans and that you'd love to be involved, right? It's just super important to stay top of mind. Then you can go to your feed and maybe look at the brands that you haven't worked with but you've talked about a lot and reach out to them. There's actually a feature on For. If you go to search content, you can search for any brand name or handle or word, and it will pull up every time that you have mentioned them. If you've got your business account connected, it'll pull your stories in. If you don't, it'll just pull your in-feeds in, and it can export into a shareable report. If you talked about LaCroix 10 times throughout the year, you can go to search content on your For profile, type in LaCroix. It'll say 10 posts for 1.5 million impressions, a 2% engagement rate, and have all the posts there. It will give you a link. You can send that to LaCroix and say, hey, a huge fan of the brand. I've talked about you a bunch this year. As you go into the holiday season, I just wanted to throw this out there and say that, you know, you'd be a dream brand to work with. And if you have plans to work with influencers, I'd love to be considered, love to talk to you more. Let me know if you have time in the coming week. Brands love that. It shows that you're already invested, you're already a customer, you're already talking about them. That should take at least 70% of your available sponsored content. Ideally would be brands that you have worked with this year already, or brands that you have organically talked about that you're trying to get sponsored posts to happen, okay? Now you've got the 30%, you've got like brands that are gonna come in, first time brands that you haven't worked with. Obviously, you gotta leave room for that. If you're super conscious of that sponsored post percentage, you might want to leave 2 in November, 2 in December open for sponsored posts and increase the price even more, right? So if you usually charged $2,000, you might say a brand is going to come to me mid-November and want a post in early December. I just know it's going to happen. In my head, I'm charging $3,500 for that because it's going to be last minute. That's defensible. They're coming in late. You're already kind of almost topped out on your sponsored posts. But all that to say, you should be more strategic. Don't just let the holidays happen to you. Don't just sit back and hope that brands reach out and that your calendar gets filled up. You have a whole year of work, a whole year of brands you've talked about, a whole year of partnerships that you've done. And now is the time to look back on that year and talk about your favorite products and work with the brands that you actually enjoy working with. And again, this is going to be better for your audience anyway. It is weird to be here sweating profusely in my cast, talking to you about holiday, but I will tell you, for brands, they're already months into planning. Get in front of it now. Figure out what you want to do. Get intentional about it. Don't let it happen to you. Feel free to drop us some more questions if you have any. We can touch on this again. Holiday is super important. We are happy to talk about it again. We also have a holiday report coming out for brands in the next couple of weeks, so keep an eye out on our Instagram for that. That's going to be data from influencers, from brands, trends, best practices that we're seeing across the industry. Again, like, subscribe, send us questions, and we'll see you next week. Cheers. So how I broke my wrist, a week or two ago, I was in a bike race. We were going, I don't know, 35 miles an hour. Guy in front of me ate shit. It was pretty clear immediately that like there was no way I was going to avoid it. Went over the handlebars. I actually, broken wrist, made it out okay. I think the guy in front of me broken wrist that needs a screw in it was not a terrible result for the crash. I've been pretty lucky the last 10 years. I haven't really crashed. It was probably my time. It was the end of the season, end of the summer. I feel like all things being equal, I'm at peace. I would have been a lot more pissed if this happened in June. And my whole summer was spent in this cast. Looking on the bright side, trying to stay optimistic.